Alrighty, I think we are live, at least. So it's 7 o'clock, Tuesday, March 29th. Back at it with another Q&A. Appreciate all the support, and I appreciate everybody coming through the last couple of Q&As. Just going to give it a couple minutes for people to file in. We've been posting everywhere, trying to spread awareness for these Q&As because they're a lot of fun for me to do. Definitely good for me to practice discussing these topics so I can stay fresh on them and just interacting with people in a brand new way. So we're talking about how different styles of workouts, different kinds of workouts, different methods of training. I'm getting too low. I think it's fine. Yeah, I get little notifications from Facebook telling me that this thing might be wrong, but it never seems to actually affect the live. So back on topic. Basically going to be discussing how different styles of workouts, different styles of training will affect your goals, and how you can kind of tailor one specific type of workout to really fit what you want to do best. Um, if you're watching the replay, definitely appreciate you. If you have any questions after this replay, make sure to drop them. Just trying to spread awareness for this, so for everybody involved live and on the replay, maybe even on the YouTubes. Make sure you're sharing it around because eventually I know this thing's going to pick up steam. This is the third consecutive week of doing these. It's been a lot of fun. Going to get my notes out, wait for people to file in for about a couple more minutes. But as my little intro, I think as a broad way of putting it, there's so many different styles of working out there. You'll see everything on the internet these days. People are trying to create new ways to, one, just challenge people in different ways, be creative, find something new and entertaining to do, and then also grab your money. So I want to kind of talk about all these different things, maybe some of the new fads, if anybody has questions about certain things. And then I want to also kind of give you guys a lens to view these things from. If you were to ever maybe, one, buy a workout program, or two, just show interest in doing something. Maybe you just follow like a YouTube series. There's a lot of stuff out there, and I think being able to differentiate in between like what's good, what's effective, and then what's kind of just out there to be out there, to be different, because that definitely exists. It's hot in this room. I'm gonna take this jacket off, and then I think it's about 7:05, so we'll get started with it. Get on my soapbox. I think first and foremost too, it's always a good little disclaimer. If you're about to start a workout program, and you have like any doubt whatsoever, make sure that you consult with a doctor. It's a weird thing for me to say. It's nothing that I've personally ever done, but like if you have any type of health condition that would predispose you to any type of risk with a new workout program, scary things can happen. It's never fun as a trainer and as someone that's going through a workout, whether you're with a trainer or just by yourself at the gym. It's very scary to have someone feel lightheaded or have someone feel chest pains. So make sure that if that's ever a thing for you, just check it with your doctor. Maybe they'll give you some recommendations, give you a stress test, give you the gold light, the green light, not the gold light. What's the gold light? Give you the clear to go ahead. But that's always an important disclaimer with any exercise program. Make sure you're good to go, because the last thing I want is tragedies in the DMARC training group. So got that out of the way. Let's see. I'm getting more notifications. If anyone's viewing, drop me a comment. Let me know. Say hi. I do appreciate that always. But let's talk about it. A lot of different goals out there, but I think the biggest one that I saw when I was a trainer in a commercial gym, when I was back in New Jersey, wasn't doing my own little private studio thing. The most common thing you're going to get is, I want to drop 10, 15 pounds, tone up, add some muscle. That's what you're going to hear probably 8 times out of 10. I think the second most common, which we'll cover both of these, but the second most common is like, I want to be able to do this. Like, I want to be able to go on this vacation, go hike these mountains. I want to be able to, play with my kids, play with my grandkids is honestly what I heard most. But those are the two things that you hear the most. So at the end of the day, it kind of boils down to I want to look better and I want to have better functionality in my life. And those are luckily two things that, man, even if you're working out consistently for 6 weeks, that I think you'll see drastic improvements on. So for anyone that's out there just trying to get started and you're getting a little discouraged because you feel like the results are slow, I think if you can stick with it for just over a month, you really will start to see changes. And if you're consistent with working out and then eating to accompany those goals, you'll see some results. But what does it actually take to get to those desired goals, right? Um, Before we cover that, before we cover what does it take, what do you have to do, I think it's an important thing on a personal level just to define why. And you know, it doesn't have to be some like deep philosophical thing. You know how everybody's like, "Oh, you got a tattoo. What does it mean? Why? Does it have sentimental value to you?" I think sometimes people go a little over the top with that because maybe you just like the way something looks and you want to get it tattooed on your body. That's not me. I don't even have tattoos. But to translate that back over to working out, maybe you just want to look better, to feel better about yourself. It doesn't have to be some deep thing like I want to impact people and show them that it's possible to have a transformation. Maybe your goals are as simple as like, hey, I just want to look better. I want to look better for my girlfriend, my boyfriend, my significant other, husband, wife, whatever. Or maybe you just want to walk around on the streets and look ungodly good. I don't know. It's all up to whatever you want to do. But I think knowing why you want to do that goal is important because when you're about to give up on your goal, when you're about to skip the gym or eat that third scoop of ice cream, you reflect back on your why, gives you a little bit more motivation to stay the course. All right, now that we got that out of the way, you got your goal, you got why you want that goal. It's really important to think about what do I need to do to get there? So, like I said, the main bulk of this conversation is going to revolve around all of the different workout styles that you have. So some of the things that I just wrote down in my notes are, you have traditional weight training, resistance training in a gym. It's probably what most people gravitate most toward because it's so accessible. You can go into a Planet Fitness for $10 a month. Uh, if you're more of a home workout person, there's so many videos, so many pieces of home equipment, so many options to work out at home. And especially over, the shutdown, we really, really saw that you can get good work in over the quarantine. So home workouts, equally as good. I think resistance training, whereas a lot of people think resistance training has to be in the gym, you can do resistance with your own body weight. It doesn't have to be at the gym if that's not your thing. But I will say, with all of these goals, I think resistance training has its place, right? Resistance training just has so many benefits, whether it's working to look better, working to get more functional, working to get stronger. It can, I think, help with your cognition. Definitely helps you approach life with a little bit more of a clear head. It has benefits such as increasing bone mineral density, so you're more resilient and less prone to injury. It can increase your cardiovascular system, which is, I think worldwide, definitely in America, cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, leading cause of death. So resistance training, definitely, there's like no cons. And, you don't have to be out here going crazy. Like you might see some of my workouts and think like, man, I don't want to do that. That's just not me. You can do basic stuff at, I will say, minimal effort. I'm not going to say like it's going to be super easy, but I'll say resistance training with these workouts is something that I would always include. On that same path, we talked about workouts in the gym, workouts at home. There's, circuit training. There's high intensity interval training. There's just aerobic training. And so I want to go through and define all those things and then talk about, how they kind of relate back and pertain to these basic goals that most people want to have. Once again, if you're just now tuning in, looks like I have one loyal viewer. But as people tune in, I think one tip I got or one piece of advice is like just restate yourself a little bit more in these lives because people are coming in and coming out. But the basics that we're covering is, you got basic goals like you want to look better. and you want to be more functional, you want to be stronger in life. And we are talking about how each one applies to these goals and then how you can integrate them into your everyday routine. Another thing that kind of just came to my mind is a lot of people, and this was from a discussion yesterday where one of my friends, he was like, man, I just don't sweat a lot. Like, I don't know. Is that, he was basically saying, like, is that like, does that mean I'm not working hard enough, or does that mean I'm not getting a good workout? But let me tell you, this dude, he's an absolute dog in the gym. He's working hard. Uh, he hit like a rep PR on his bench press, like heavy weight. I could tell the intensity was there, but he wasn't sweating a lot, and that's fine. I know for a fact he was staying hydrated. So keep that in mind. Like, you don't have to sweat a ton to have an effective workout. You don't have to absolutely destroy yourself and feel like you got to crawl out of the gym or leave your little home workout crippled to have an effective workout. So keep that in mind as we go through and talk about each one of these things. But let's talk about how you can implement a simple resistance training program. Once again, resistance training doesn't have to be just in the gym. We'll talk about at home and in the gym context to basically work toward these goals. So let's say for scenario one, you're going to the gym, you're just getting started. I would recommend for all my beginners out there, resistance training in the gym 3 to 4 days a week. And what I would do if you're just getting started, and of course this gets more and more complicated and complex, more variables go into it. This is the stuff that I nerd out on, is how you can continually advance yourself with your workouts. But if you're fresh to the gym, I think 3 full body workouts a week, you're going to be good. And you can ride that wave for, man, honestly, like the first year, arguably the first 2 years, you could go 3 or 4 days a week. You're going to be making great progress. And if you're doing the right routine and you're not wasting your time or kind of being careless, you're going to see results probably within the first, like I said, 6 weeks, 2 months. It definitely will come. But that's just the resistance training in the gym type of route. You can do the same thing where you're working out 3 times at home, whether it's, following your favorite YouTuber. There's so many free videos out there. Or maybe you have some other considerations like injuries that you would have to have someone build out a specialized program for you. Also, tons of people do that. That's one of the things that I do. I think resistance training, if you include some type of, there's 6 or 7 basic movement patterns that you want to do, and I think they cover just about all the goals for you to achieve your goals of looking better, being more functional. So the biggest one I feel like on social media these days is the squat. It could be a body weight squat. You could be doing with a barbell, a dumbbell, any type of implement, really, a machine. Super accessible at home and in the gym. Wherever you're going to go, there's going to be the option to do squats. So that's one of the important movement patterns that you should consider when you're at home. You have a lunge, which is another great lower body option. You have a hinge, which, like, if you know about deadlifts, that's going to be perfect for you. There's push and pull. So think about upper body, basic push example, basic push is a bench press. Basic pull would be like a row. I think I have one more that I'm missing out on. And maybe it'll come to me, maybe it won't. But super basic patterns that, any beginner program could fulfill is what you kind of would want to start with if you're looking to do that resistance training in the gym or at home. And man, I'll say you don't need to start off at the craziest, most expensive personal training gym. I think I personally wish I would have worked with a personal trainer when I was starting, because it's what I do now, and I think I could have gained a lot of valuable insight and information. But honestly, depending on your budget, depending on what you want to do, there's so many good learning resources. What I'm trying to do online to teach people how to work out and how to improve their health and fitness, that you can really go both ways with it. If you want to learn the fast route, working with someone that's experienced, that's that you like and you enjoy working with, in a personal trainer, that'd be a great way to go. Or you could just follow a YouTube series, and probably it'll set you back a month or 2, but you'll learn equally as quick. A caveat that I will say is extremely beneficial to working with people working with experienced professionals, rather, I should say, is form. You definitely see some beginners just butchering form, and it's not their own fault. It's just they don't know what exactly that form should look like. So I will say that's a definite benefit of working with an individual, or just mirroring what you see someone do in a video. I think I've studied and spent so many hours researching form, researching how I can improve my form to lift more weight when I was really into powerlifting, or to make my movements more efficient and grow my muscles bigger now that I'm really into kind of like bodybuilding style training. That make sure no matter what you're doing, a central tenet is form. And that goes at home or in the gym. I feel like it's also, now that we're kind of in the weeds with like things that you should pay attention to, there's a couple like key terms that are really going to help you out of reaching your goals. Just kind of like basic vocabulary stuff as you're getting into working out. The first one, and I think it's extremely applicable to a lot of beginners, and you'll see very advanced people doing this as well. That's a compound movement. Now, what does that mean? It sounds really complex, but it's super simple. So compound movement means it's working multiple systems in your body. You're using multiple joints, and it's kind of like the type of movement that's going to give you the most bang for your buck. So the example that I used initially was squats. Squats are a great compound movement because think about it. You're not only using your legs to help lift yourself up, but you got to stabilize with your core. You're bracing your core, protecting your lower back. Ooh, I got some comments. Hey, it's Brandon and Hannah. Hannah, you're so hard on yourself. You don't have horrible form. Your form is pretty on point. You're a quick learner too. So, talking about compound movements, stuff that's going to give you the most bang for your buck, it's extremely important for beginners to learn those basics. I'll think like, it's always fun to throw in some machines or some isolation. Isolation, you can think of like a great example of an isolation movement is like a bicep curl. It only works one isolated muscle group, whereas a compound movement will work all kinds of different things. Like if you really break it down, a back squat works so many different muscle groups, your legs, your glutes, your back, your core, lots of stuff going on there. So definitely get the basics of compound movements down as a beginner. Now that you know that term, you can start applying it. Maybe you'll drop it at the gym and flex your knowledge on the people, not just your muscles, because we care about your brain power, not just your squat output. That's a very important and basic term. If you can integrate in compound movements, we're talking squats, deadlifts, presses, that's going to get you really far right off the bat. Another good term that I think, or another good concept, it's not a term, that I think a lot of people kind of mess up, especially when they're first getting into the gym, is rest times. So I think in general, beginners, you don't have that quite same, like, it's called proprioception, that spatial awareness. You're kind of just like moving the weight. Whereas more advanced people, they can really target each muscle group and get the most out of a lift, let's say. That's a basic way to explain it. But when you're lifting and you're lifting correctly, that stuff can be tiring. Making sure that you take adequate rest times to allow your heart rate to go down, to allow your muscles to slightly recover is very, very important. But what you see is a lot of beginners kind of just want to rush through the workout. I'll tell you, if you do that, it's not the worst thing in the world. I'm still glad that you're going to the gym, but you're missing out on a lot of potential progress because you're exhausting yourself, not really giving yourself an adequate amount of time to really challenge yourself to the best degree. So when you're doing those compound movements, it's good to take like a whole 2 minutes to let your body just kind of chill out and come down a little bit before you go into another challenging set. So really make sure you got your rest times down. It's important to take your time with your workout. On that same frame, how much time should you spend in the gym? I think, honestly, you can get a really effective workout in 30 to 60 minutes. I used to a fault, spend way too much time in the gym. Like my lifts would be taking 2 hours, and it just doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to take that much time out of your day to get an effective workout in. But I will say there is definitely a minimum. Like at the very, very minimum, research and kind of like general exercise standards say for cardiorespiratory benefits, 10 minutes of, let's say, walking is like the bare minimum. But if you're resistance training, I feel like to give yourself that full body challenge, really working more toward 30 to 60 minutes is a good place to start. I don't want to ever see people go in and just completely crush themselves in the gym and then be deterred to come back, because that's no fun. And that's why I got sick. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that was just the perfect storm of unfortunate events when Hannah got sick. But it happened. She just works that hard. She never cheats herself, and she's all about the grind. So make sure you're giving yourself enough rest time, especially when it comes to cardio things and core, because that, if you're ever to get sick, I feel like that's the combination of things to do it. Rest times, super important to understand. You're not here to rush through everything and get through it as fast as possible, but give yourself some time and you'll have a much better workout. Kind of on the same, I'm trying to keep this related, keep it flowing well, but a lot of times I'll see beginners, I think you just kind of get the wrong perception of, you see social media, you'll see YouTube videos of people just absolutely trashing themselves and going extremely hard in the gym. So it's important to have a concept of how hard you should train. She said, I cheated the entire time. Yeah, we're going to fix that. I'm being super strict from now on. But I feel like there's two ends of this spectrum, and it's rarely in the middle for beginners. But either someone will come to the gym and they'll just push themselves entirely way too hard and drive themselves into the ground, or on the other end of the spectrum, they just kind of go through the motions and they don't really even try. Sometimes when I'm training a new person, it takes a second to like understand their body language and when they're working really hard. And so I'll ask them like, hey, how challenging would that weight feel out of 10? And they're like, it was all right. It was okay. And that's generally when I know it's way too easy, because most of the time people are going to say like, oh, it's there. Most of the time people aren't going to say it's way too easy. You can kind of see when form breaks down, and that's how you'll know it's too hard. But understanding that, especially as a beginner, you need to be kind of right in the middle. The nice thing about being a beginner and as you start working out is you don't have to push crazy hard. I still want everybody to go in and work hard, get great work in, feel a little sore the next day, but you don't have to train to failure all the time like you might see bodybuilders or like serious athletes do. That's just a beginner piece of advice, because it definitely changes as you get more and more into the gym. You need to push harder. So I'm not trying to make excuses like that. But you get two ends of the spectrums for beginners there. So if it's your basic goal, I just kind of want to do a recap. It's your basic goal, maybe drop a couple pounds, look better, look more toned, whatever the term might be. Really important to understand, I think resistance training has a piece in everyone's repertoire, let's say, or it has a place for everyone's goals. Basically, it doesn't have to be in the gym, it can be at home. Resistance could be your own body weight, it could be weights, it could be machines, but make sure you're doing some resistance training. I think it's really going to help you achieve those goals. You definitely want to be mindful of using compound movements. Keep in mind your rest times. It's okay to rest a little bit longer, let your heart rate come down, let your muscles recover. I don't want to see people scrolling on their phones too much, but take your time in between sets. Don't rush through. And then make sure your training is challenging, but it's not going to basically bury you or make you puke in Hannah's case. So what's next? I feel like we got to talk about that aerobic component. One, because it's super beneficial for your heart health. If you're walking every day and putting energy toward that, it's definitely going to extend your life, make you have a higher quality of life, deeper into your life. But it's also really important for fat loss. There's a lot that goes into aerobic training too. And this is where we can really get into like practical, effective advice. So let's say you're someone like me, you like going to the gym. The process of lifting weights is pretty enjoyable. I think in order to fuel that fat loss that you will get from the gym, because you'll get a little, but it's not as much as people think. People think if you go and hit like a upper body workout or a full body workout even, that you're good for the day. You can just chill, eat whatever, and you'll lose weight. It's probably not gonna be true. You need to add a little bit of aerobic work in there, not only for health, but to fuel that fat loss as well. What I've been doing, and I've been a huge proponent of for the past year. Last year, I lost 22 pounds in the period of January to actually today is the 1 year anniversary. So basically 3 months, I lost 22 pounds. And then this year, I'm doing pretty good. I started my diet February 18th, down about 8 pounds. Excuse me, down about 8 pounds. The only type of cardio I do is walking. Walking outside. Sometimes I'll walk at the treadmill if I'm at the gym. But man, what I do is I just have this Apple Watch. I don't really use my Apple Watch for the workouts because that's a whole other topic, but I don't think the calorie tracking of calorie expenditure on your workouts is accurate. I just use it for the step counter. So I'm making sure I average 10 to 12,500 steps a day. Some days might be a little lower. Some days I might be 13 to 14,000 steps. But if you can take one dedicated walk a day and stay pretty active throughout the rest of the day, that is going to be key for fueling the resistance training to help with fat loss. I will say, if you're the type of person that likes doing cardio, maybe you like doing circuit training, you can do a great job of integrating both, and it is a little bit more time effective. So that's why I wanted to progress onto HIIT training and circuit training in general. So to differentiate between the two, high intensity interval training, or HIIT, is right. So that one threw me. I'm gonna mute my notifications real quick. There we go. That's not gonna pop up anymore. Basically, high intensity interval training is you will go for extremely high intensity for a bout of maybe 20 seconds, and then you're gonna back off and lower that intensity for 40 seconds, right? Because 20 plus 40 equals the minute. It's like a great way to structure a workout if you're on a tight time frame. You can do not only like cardio type movements, like a good example would be like a mountain climber or a burpee mixed with like a plank, right? So you're doing like a mountain climber or a burpee, super high intensity for 20 seconds, and then holding like a strength type exercise like a plank for that 40 seconds. It's the common pairings that you'll see. Whereas circuit training, it's not necessarily high intensity, but you're just going through a whole bunch of different things. You could do circuit training for time. You could do it for amount of repetitions. Whereas HIIT training is mostly, you'll see it gauged by time. There's a couple drawbacks to both. So now that we've covered resistance training and how you can use aerobic cardio to really get the most out of that combination, maybe let's switch our emphasis over to circuits and HIIT. So the pros of HIIT are, I feel like you leave that workout feeling like you got great workout, or feeling like you got a great workout, feeling super accomplished. You'll get that sweat going. You'll get that sense of, man, I just worked hard. But on the same time frame, it's super time effective. You could get a whole cardio and strength routine in a HIIT style in an hour, and man, you'll be gassed. I'd say 30 minutes to an hour is all you need for a HIIT style workout. If you could go longer than an hour, you deserve an award. You should be a CrossFit athlete, because that is endurance right there. Moving on to some of the downsides, though, however, if you're concerned about your performance, maybe you're really into like tracking your weights, maybe you're super cognitive about, or is that the word? Super concerned. There we go. About making sure you're recovered to the best of your abilities, so then you can bring that same level of intensity day after day. HIIT training and circuit training can have downsides in that regard, because you're just simply going so hard that you can't recover. It's one of the downsides that you have to be really careful about when you're designing a HIIT program, or if you're following one. If you constantly feel like you're just dragging, like you're destroyed by those workouts, then it might be time to switch it up or try a slightly different style of workout. But I will say, everything has its pros and cons. Like, I think the the cons of that resistance training in the gym or at home and the aerobic is sometimes people just don't push themselves hard enough. Whereas on the other end of the spectrum, you have people burying themselves into the ground with HIIT and circuits. So definitely something to be concerned about. Both are viable options to help you get toward those basic goals, which I talked about at the beginning, whether you're looking to just look better and feel better, or you're looking more so to reading my comments, or you're looking more so to just be more functional, feel stronger, feel more able to go about everyday life. Basically, what I want you guys to leave with is the knowledge that I feel like there's so many different workout styles and methods out there that you don't have to limit yourself to something that you don't like. Like, so many times when I was working in a commercial gym, you see people just dragging their feet on the way in. But it doesn't have to be like that. Maybe you don't like lifting. Maybe you like doing classes better. Definitely go ahead and pursue that. You're going to get in great shape doing that kind of a workout. You don't have to limit yourself to something that you don't like. Whereas me, I like a class from time to time, but my preference is definitely lifting weights and seeing the results that come from that style of workout. I just want people to know that there's many, many options out there. You don't have to feel married to one thing. You can switch it up. You can work in a varied routine. But having basic knowledge, kind of like what I talked about throughout this video, of understanding, what you should do as a beginner, and then scaling that over time as you become more advanced, understanding those rest times, understanding how you can utilize different kinds of workouts, whether it's in the gym, at home, HIIT, circuit training. It's super important to have that basic knowledge, and then once you have the basic knowledge, the sky's the limit. You can really take it as high up as you need to. This is kind of a quicker live, just about 30 minutes in. I feel like I could go into the details and get really, really in depth with it, but I want to leave it more like on the short and sweet, just like practical take-home chunks. That you don't have to feel bogged down or feel like I'm throwing too much information at you. So I'll just chill here. I only have one viewer for right now, but if there's any questions, if my one viewer would like to say what's up, I don't even know who it is, feel free to leave questions. I'll do my little YouTube stuff here too, guys. I'm posting these recaps on YouTube every week. So hey, if you're viewing it on the Facebook group, go ahead and show some love on my Facebook. Hit that subscribe, ring my notification bell. I've been putting some good focus on YouTube lately. I'm trying to do one upload a week, staying real consistent. It's a great way to reach new audiences and just kind of show the world what I've been doing and provide information in a fun way. I really like the process of putting together a good YouTube video. It's a lot of fun. So definitely, I appreciate you guys for checking in. I don't have any questions right now, but of course, if you're watching the replay on Facebook or on YouTube, feel free to leave me any type of questions. If you have specific goals that you're trying to hit, I can kind of steer you in the right direction of a workout approach. Or if you feel like your workout has been stale lately and you need some fresh ideas, you want some ways to mix it up and feel good in the gym, that's what I think it's all about. Is I want to help people really understand that they can have a good time with fitness. It doesn't have to be something you dread. It doesn't have to be this tough thing, because I kind of felt that way at the beginning. I was just not very knowledgeable about it, and over the past, it's been about 9 years now that I've been lifting pretty consistently. I just realized that there's so many different opportunities to reap the benefits of being fit, and seeing the results come from those little actions day after day. That's kind of my whole spiel and my whole mission statement. But I'm going to close it out, guys. I really appreciate everybody that stopped by, everybody that comments. It's really fun having to have this, or being able to have this interaction on Facebook. Going to be doing these on a weekly basis, so make sure you're tuning in. If you're on YouTube, definitely check out the Facebook group. That's going to be linked in the description. Do the whole like, comment, subscribe, notifications thing. Definitely helps me. Of course, guys, I always like getting the dialogue going. Shoot me a message. Leave me a comment. Hope you all have a good night, good day. Whenever you're watching this, I'm out. Oh, I should have had my cursor on the end live now before I said I'm out. But for real this time. See ya.